Now for the latest in national security, and Lincoln Parker joins me as he does every week. Twice in 2 days I've had the honour of your company. Last night I spoke at an event that you hosted, a forum on Ukraine and Russia, and it's ridiculous because that used to be the big focus when it came to national security. Eyes have now moved to the Middle East, but also Australia's role in that war. Before we hear from the Ukrainian ambassador, can you let me know what you think of the role Australia's playing? Are we doing enough still in that conflict?
Well, thank you, Erin. And clearly we're not doing enough. We heard from the Ukrainian ambassador last night, and we were in the city. We had about 100 people attend at the Tattersalls Club, and half were about Liberal members and half the general public. And we heard from the Ukrainian ambassador just what they need in Ukraine in order to defeat the Russians. So we've got a very aggressive Russia, and he said they have just land-mined so much area. It's really difficult for them, and so they need a whole bunch of land clearing equipment. They need F-16s, they even need coal. So he said one of the things that Australia could provide us right now as we're going into a really bad winter is coal. And I don't think that the Albanese government in Australia is doing enough. The Ukrainian ambassador talked about that yesterday and said, look, we're getting very cold. It's coming into a brutal winter. This is what you could do right now.
He was very diplomatic, wasn't he? He also wants the rest of us to remember that they exist. And look, I asked him about the impact of war breaking out in the Middle East and what a distracted world, i.e. all the eyes on the Middle East, means for his people.
We see that Russia is benefiting from this situation, and we believe that Russia's been involved in training Hamas and inspiring Hamas, working with Iran. And I think it's pretty clear where it's good and evil. And I think it's important that the free world stands on the side of good to making sure that we can win. And at the end of the day, support for Ukraine is not about as long as it takes. It should be support for Ukraine as long as it takes to prevail.
Gosh, Russia involved with Hamas, allegedly.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what that brings home to Australians is the Albanese government's all-in policy on China. The fact that China has stated that they are Russia's no-limits partner, the fact that China is also buying all of Iran's oil and helping them as well, really puts pressure on, are we really wanting to side with the bad guys in this, which is China and Russia? Because at the end of the day, they are funding terrorism. They're funding terrorists to go in and kill innocent civilian Israelis. And I'm not quite sure that the Australian public are quite aware of that, with our all-in policy of going with China all the way, as opposed to standing up for what we should believe in and the values that Australia holds.
Absolutely. Now, a slight change of pace, in fact, much quicker. Boys and their toys. What have the US tested that you're obsessed with now?
Yes, indeed. So the B-21 Raider is an awesome plane. It was tested just a few days ago. There
Wow.
it is. It is a long-range stealth bomber. So if Australians may remember, back in 1963, Prime Minister Bob Menzies said, Australia, for our security, needs a long-range bomber, and we got the F-111, which Australians loved, and that kept us safe for decades. It retired over 20 years ago, or about 20 years ago, and we've not had anything to replace it. This is cutting-edge, state-of-the-art, next generation. It's essentially a invisible flying destroyer. And we should be looking at that. In addition to our submarines, we should be getting something like a squadron, which is about 12 of those planes, and we could have them in service pretty quickly. They're much cheaper than nuclear submarines, and we could have them as a stopgap, because who knows when we're going to get the submarines.
Slightly more than like a 1996 Barina, cost-wise, I'm assuming?
I reckon they're about $750 million each, but they keep us safe.
OK, well, that's key, isn't it, in everything that we do in that space. Lincoln, brilliant as always, and thank you again. Congratulations on a great event last night. Really good stuff.
Thank you so much, Erin.